Welcome to Gain Tactical Tuesday. As always, I'm joined by the co-host with the most, Drew Swirsky. What's up, Drewski?
What up, Justin?
Justin Myers here. I have the privilege of seeing this person on a regular basis right here in East Tennessee. My dear friend, Abby Morton. Abby, I'm gonna make you blush first, if that's
Yes, I
okay.
know every time.
Okay. So, uh, about 4 years ago, I got really interested in Keller Williams Young Professionals. I was at that brokerage and I was like, this is amazing. Someone should run this thing. I'm 38 years old. Like, so I'm like, who could we find that is younger than me that could run this thing? And I started talking. I'd gone to an event. I met the president. He picked me up at the airport when I went to Austin. Really great guy, Johnny G. And I was like, along the process, I found like that I was the president and we were starting a chapter. And again, I'm 38. And so we did it. We did some really exciting things. And then about a year in, we were hosting an event and I met Abby, right? I think you were at the Glover U event, right, Abby? No, or Pints for Purpose, maybe.
Nashville. Yeah, no, Nashville
Oh,
is weird. Yeah,
yes. I
yeah.
forgot about this. Wow, thank you. So, anyways, we threw this event in Nashville. Rob was there. Scott says he vaguely recalls 38. So Rob Chavez, that runs Grid, came in there. We spoke. I forgot about this. Me and my vice president, Matt Lawson, are driving home from the event, and Abby calls me, and she's like, "My entire world has changed." Right? Like I thought like I feel like I've been living in this fishbowl and like I've been debating Wyatt, like he's unrealistic about his goals, and I'm just this like right because I met Abby and she was so obviously talent, and it was like I remember what I forgot that like Matt and I were like all of this work was totally worth it. This would have been 2022. Yeah, this would have been 2022. We had been running it for a year and we're like, everything is totally worth it. Right. And then Abby ends up stepping in to be president of this organization. Like she's grown tremendously over the years. Right. I'm about to go post one of her reels. You got to see Abby's one of the best marketers in the country. And she's going to tell her story. So I'm not going to let her tell the story. But these things matter. Like I totally forgot about that. Like when you create rooms, sometimes you don't know why you're creating them, but the right person is going to come in. And when you create a room like this, their life is going to transform. And we just continue to pay that thing forward. So, Abby has built a big, beautiful life. Her and Wyatt are incredible agents. Last thing I'll just say is I was going to leave town at one point, go work in Vegas. I was going to turn all my business over to Abby and Wyatt. Like this is like my real estate little sister. I think, when she's not on here, I'm the best agent in the Smokies. But when Abby's here, like, uh, you know, credit where credit is due. So, Drewski, I'm excited for you to meet Abby. Like, it's been really incredible to watch somebody where you see them continue to level up and step into their purpose. Abby, we're so excited to have you join us. Let's go.
Okay, perfect. That actually leads into exactly where I wanted to start, which is a little bit of story time. Um, Today, I will be very vulnerable. I'm always very vulnerable. And I hope that if you want to be as well, please share. You can chime in. I want this to be very conversational. Um, I'm just a very laid back, just all about conversation and connecting. And so I want this to be very real today. I think it will be a little different maybe than some of your Tactical Tuesdays. I don't know exactly what this normally looks like, but today I just kind of want to talk about what it is that I have done in my life, especially over the past year, that has drastically made my has put me more in control of my life. So I just want to start off by saying, as you know, as entrepreneurs, we have highs and lows, right? Very often like a roller coaster. I want to start just really this past year. As Justin said, about 4 years ago, this is when it all started. I started at ground zero. Absolutely no connections. I was a nurse prior, and in my first year of real estate, we sold 12 million. The next year, we did 10, and by we, I mean me and my husband. Um, and this year, we have already sold and pinned it over 30 million. Now, I say I'm going to start this year because I think it's very important to note that even though this has been my best year, mentally and emotionally, it has been my worst. As of right now, I'm doing great because of these things we're going to talk about today. But when, if you, sorry, I get very, very passionate and emotional, but whatever you're trying to achieve, if your heart is not in the right place and your passion, like you do not love what you are doing, it won't matter at all. The money doesn't matter. The success doesn't matter. The following doesn't matter. And, just making sure that you're putting yourself first and what is important to you, putting up boundaries, making sure that your energy, like, knowing what it is that fuels you, what drains you, putting up those, um, knowing your energy zones, and then making sure that the brand is authentic and aligns with you and makes you happy. And those are the three things we're going to talk about today. So let's get started. Maybe. Okay, going back to this. So the moment I shifted my focus to what truly matters, that's when everything changed for us. My business didn't shrink. It finally had room to grow because we allowed it to grow. We're going to unpack what it really means to build a life that fuels your business and not the other way around. And I think as agents, a lot of us get burnt out very, very often. Burnout isn't a proof of passion, it's a proof of poor boundaries. I love to work. I'm sure every single one of you do. I could wake up in the morning and work until I go to sleep. My husband is not one that likes to be in front of the camera, but if you know him like Justin does, you know that he's still working on this boundary issue. He works like a maniac, like 13 to 15 hours a day. And it got in the way of our marriage, hence why this past year was one of the hardest. We really had to work through that together. And for the remaining of talking about boundaries, in just a second, I want this to be, like I said, conversational. So I just want to ask a couple questions. I'll share some of my answers to these questions, and hopefully we can figure out, where you might need some boundaries, and how you can maybe implement those in your business. So for me personally, and I know that this is very common, misaligned clients and overcommitting is the real drainer. So it's not like the work itself, right, is draining us, because we love to work, which is why I think I always felt as if there was this clash. I'm like, well, I love to work. Why do I not want to work? Well, it's because I was working with the wrong people, and I was overcommitting in places that I didn't need to be, because it did not align with what I loved, that I love to do. Because just because you're good at something doesn't mean that you need to do it. And that is a big thing for me. And I feel like Justin and I, we've actually talked about this a lot, is that, we love to network and we love like to make new friends, and we love communicating, we love talking. But sometimes we might do it a little too much to where it starts to have a negative effect on who we are, because we forget to just take a breath and rest. So, first, what parts of your business are draining you the most right now? So who would like to share?
Ooh. And let's make this collaborative because what Abby's journey, 30 million already pended this year. Like this is right. People work their whole career to climb to there. Like, and I've watched them do this in 3 years. Why it's been in 1 year longer than Abby. This is not like, it's been pretty incredible to see this. So, and this is the conversation, would you agree, Drew, of the moment that we're having with everybody. Everybody is like, oh, wait, the gold rush is over. Do I love this? Like, why am I doing this? Like, so yeah, I'd love to hear this. What parts of the business are draining you guys? What is not giving you energy? What's the suck right now? Anybody, everybody love having to sell the same house 3 times? Is that fun? I see Fraser smiling. Is that fun? That's not fun, right? Everybody love, we're in the Smokies, right? Having to break the news to people that they're losing money because they're only making 200 grand on the property that they brought, not 400 grand because they have monopoly, Zillow money, but they feel like they're losing money, right? Uh He's
and
just
for me,
smiling. He's not a real estate.
and it doesn't even have to be necessarily like, working with buyers or XYZ. For me, I wrote down always trying to prove I was good enough to be in this space.
Ooh.
Always being on and trying to prove that I'm good enough and just as Justin is stating, it's not like it's my husband's fault or anyone's fault. This is a personal thing, but my husband is a genius, an absolute genius. And he is like he is a part of the puzzle. Like we are a team. We are like we got here together, but for so long, I was just feeling like I'm not even good enough to be in this space. I don't even like I I don't even what's the word? Deserve to be speaking on this because
Imposter syndrome.
exactly.
Yes.
So that was my biggest thing that I've been working on this year.
Can I share some backgrounds,
Mhm.
Abby? So
Sure.
Wyatt has an accounting background. So I'll go to Wyatt when I'm talking about tax. And so Wyatt has an accounting background. Wyatt got into real estate from accounting, very helpful with STRs because it's all numbers, math, tax benefits. And what's funny is Wyatt and I both would sit there and be like, Abby is the only non-replaceable part of the business. In terms of personality, in terms of marketing, in terms of connection, like I didn't know Wyatt was shy because I get along with everybody. So we talk all the time. And then I've seen Wyatt in public. Like no one would ever meet Wyatt. If
Ever.
it wasn't for Abby, he would be standing in the corner at Grid, not talking to anybody. And so, but it's interesting, right? I think that's a common thing is this imposter syndrome. I know that I had it when I became an agent because you just it's so shockingly aware of like I don't know all the things, right, Drew? I'm supposed to be a fiduciary for these people, and then I have mentorship, and I'm like, well, they really should be hiring Drew, not me, right? Drew's been doing it forever, and it's a very difficult business we're in of like, you should trust me with this gigantic asset, you
Well,
know.
I also think like we have to be honest with ourselves with question number one, right? You don't have to answer it here, but you should write down an answer because the end of July's been a tough month for a lot of people. And there's a real way to self-discover here what's draining for you and how you could leverage that out.
Mm,
Ex-
yeah,
ex-
I love that. Just out of curiosity, what's the view for everybody? Are you just seeing the screen? Are you just seeing the slide? Are you seeing it's always kind of interesting to see how it shows up for people.
Slide and who's talking.
Ah, got it. So
Yeah.
not like the gallery sort of conversation. Okay, cool. That helps. That's helpful. Thank you. Appreciate that, Scott. Scott, what's draining you right now before we move
Yep.
in?
When Abby talked about just shared her thoughts, the immediate thought that I have is a variation of this, which is always feeling like you have to top what you're doing to either your SOI or me. I'm very much farming heavy and realizing, wait a minute, these people already know what you do and value what you do. You don't have to keep one-upping yourself, which means more hours and trying to think up something new. Just focus on the things that you've already done to demonstrate value. And I'm always trying, I got to do what's the next thing to show people that, know of me, know me, why I'm, the agent that I'm at. And that is just a draining, um, self increasing hours process. And I'm struggle with that.
So I love it. New levels, new devils, right? How long you been in the business, Scott?
Full time since January 2018,
Yeah,
10 years
yeah,
total.
yeah. I think that's great. You want to go to the next question, Abby?
Perfect. What are you often saying yes to that feels misaligned or unnecessary? To me, weirdly enough, it was every meeting and every networking event, even though that is what I love to do. And that's kind of what I said at the beginning, is it just not every single networking event or meeting was aligned with, am I going to find my perfect client? Am I going to find a deal for my clients there? Are the people in the room there? Do I even want to be in the room with them? I think that this is something that we should get real with. Like, are these agents really producing, or am I just trying to show face to say, like, I went to a networking event today? it's very helpful for me because I just moved to Sevierville at the end of February. So I'm an hour away. So I have a really good excuse if I don't want to go because that's 2 hours total. But just going to so many of these events where I'm like, I do not know why I came. It was a waste of time. So just learning to say no to things like that has become very important for me.
Mm, yeah, right, Drew. Do you have remember when, like, I got to go to this, I got to stop by this title event. I've got to go to this mortgage event. I've got to stop by the broker's open, right?
Or I've got to answer the phone at 10 o'clock at night.
Exactly.
I see some head nods there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would say that's the single biggest is I was out of production a lot last year. And I've gotten, I've been in ops. I was in ops for like in 2019. So I spent some time, and whenever I get back into it, I was like, no wonder why everyone around me is insane.
Yeah.
The pace of this market, especially coming in Knoxville, the pace of this market is so insane. Like if you respond to the market, you're gonna work. Everybody's a crazy person. If you
Amen, Justin.
their pace, they're all crazy.
There-
What's that, Aaron?
It's not gonna stop no matter what you do, and it's infuriating to me because I'm pretty good at what I do, but like if I don't do what I do, then the check doesn't come, and so keeping that fire burning, it's almost addicting, right? And then saying, hey, I've got enough today. Let me turn I did what I was supposed to do. But yeah, that's a big one.
Clocking out on time. I think that's a great one. Drop yours in the chat if you don't want to. I'd love to see this. This is a great exercise. Cool.
Well, and that kind of goes to number 3. Oh, I'm so sorry. This kind of what you just said goes to number 3. But who was going to say something? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and in the beginning, when you're first starting out, like you do everything, you wear all the hats, right? And then how do you say no to wearing all the hats and the new businesses coming in? And then you just kind of get into that rhythm. And at some point, you need to have that next hire, but you're so busy doing everything. Now it seems very draining. How am I going to find time to train that person, find that person, train that person? And so you end up probably staying in the position of wearing all the hats a little too long. And that just kind of has a momentum of its own going forward.
Absolutely. And, even though Wyatt and I were married, like I always speak on it as like we're a team. I could not do what I'm doing if I was a solo agent. So I know that a lot of you all are on teams. I don't know, Justin, if all of you guys are on a team, but I tell so many agents, they're like, how do you do it? How do you do it? I'm like, well, I'm not a solo agent. I don't wear all the hats, but in the beginning, for the first 2.5, 3 years, I was actually practicing on my mom, and she was like, you make sure you tell them that you about killed yourself at the beginning, and it's not I'm like, I know, Mom, I know, but like it comes to a certain point, like what you're saying is you need to know like when it's time to hire and take that leap. And I mean, you just have to just trust that this is what is going to get you to the next level, because you just cannot physically, mentally, emotionally do it any longer.
Mm-hmm. And you're a busy, right? You're a mom. You were living in a flip project to watch Abby. If you don't follow Abby on social, it's entertaining. There's a lot going on. Abby's doing the drywall in the house. Abby's starting a property management business. No, I love that. So what's your next point here? It's this next question. These are great questions. What boundaries? Ooh, I need this. So let's what boundaries would free up your mental space?
Yep.
I'd say, right, Drew, that's the single biggest one there's
So-
just how
I
many
want
things-
Abby to dive into this, but I want to share. Last night, Justin and I do some pre-show prep, and he called me at 6:30, and I had just sat down to dinner with my sons, who I don't see that much because they usually are at work. And I text him and said, "Hey, brother, I just sat down to dinner, and I actually set a boundary." And my son looked at me and said, "Normally, you would have answered that, and you would
Ooh,
have gotten up from the table." He says, "Normally, you would have answered that, and you would have gotten up from the table and went around the corner so you wouldn't disturb us." And I was like, wow, okay.
that's
So anyway,
powerful.
sorry.
They're still watching us, right, Drew? You got grown
Yep.
kids.
Yeah, I mean, he's 22 and 20. So both of them were like, normally you would have answered that. So sorry, Abby, continue on. But that's what I mean, like mental space, and like, this is perfect.
No, absolutely. So For me, it can be as simple as I actually have my social media stuff. I have it muted from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. I kind of shift it depending on the day. I'll go in and mute like when I'm spending time with my son. I have him 50-50 in the summer. So that's why you see me sometimes I'm more active than others. But things of, muting the time that you're getting notifications, I can still pop on. But for me, mentally, having that in place has been really, really huge for me, because it almost was making me angry. I'm sure you guys understand this, especially if you have children or just pets, any of the above, because my dogs would make me mad too. But when you're trying to work and you're being interrupted, it's almost infuriating. And I realized that I was a little snippy, or I wasn't as pleasant to be around. And I realized that I was making it all about my work and my business. And I was putting my 6-year-old kind of to the side. And so that's why this is so important, these boundaries that I have set this past year, and has made me love my life and love my business even more.
That's great, Abby. No, that makes that, I think that social media part is subtle, is subtle, like the being responsive, because it feels good, and it's and I know that screen time is, here's what I've thought about it is, oh, the more time you spend on social media, like the less good your mental health is. If you're an average American, why do I think I'm not average? I am average when I don't eat well, and I don't sleep well, and I don't exercise, and I spend a lot of time on social media. I I am not like the exception to the rule. Like my life is I get the same results as other people. Yeah, that makes sense.
I want to make sure we have time because I have 2 more points and more questions. I'm
do
going to
it.
skip these 2, but does anyone else have anything they want to say about boundaries before I move on?
I I'm real curious with this next one, Abby.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah. Okay,
No,
so
no,
what
no.
boundary you're afraid to set? Write it down, share it, whatever that may be. I can share really fast mine. So mine was obviously not attending the networking events or saying no to those things. I was afraid to become irrelevant. I'm telling you, I'm being very vulnerable here, or not.
Mm.
And funny story, this just happened not too long ago, but Wyatt and I, we decided to go to a networking event in Knoxville. It was the one at the bar on the rooftop, the embassy or wherever it was, and walked in. It had only been a couple months since I stopped going to these events, and I can say I maybe recognized like 4 people. Like nobody kind of came up to me, and you know what? I didn't die. Like nothing happened, nothing bad happened. My business didn't falter because the agents in Knoxville didn't recognize me or didn't know me. Because, I feel like there's always so many new agents coming in, and there's so many new, I don't know, there's just always something going on. And so that was a big thing for me. I just was afraid to become irrelevant.
I'd be curious here to get some answers. Like this would be a great one. I'm gonna stop your share for a second, if that's okay. You can share again.
I got your back.
All right.
So I got divorced because of this business, in my opinion, by doing what Drewski said. Always answering the phone, always running out to the next showing. Every single part of that was something that I did. But actually setting that boundary, I am done unless we have an appointment at 5 o'clock. I am done. You're not going to call me. If you do, it's going to go to voicemail. Nothing can happen. I can't text the title company or whatever. I mean, unless there's something very specific, it's all over. And, at that point in my day, and part of me is with the short-term rental business, a lot of people are renting a property over the weekend, so they cannot go out and look at stuff. So it's turned into a very legitimate, specific between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. is when I work, and that everything else is around that. I have to set that boundary. And if it was scary at first, because I'm like, people are gonna call me, and that's the energy I put towards it. But now it's fine. I'm 53, so I don't get as excited as I used to.
Aaron, how has that affected your life for the positive?
Yeah, it's great because every night I have older kids still living at the house, 20 and 24, and so we sit down for dinner each night, and it's my wife and I, and we have all the dogs and the cats, and everybody, cats in the cradle, all the stuff. Like, you listen to that song, and it's just like, holy shit, I did not know that was coming, and now I don't run out for nothing, right? If I'm gonna very specific, very what's the word I'm looking for, but intentional.
Intentional?
Yeah, intentional. Thank you. I'm going out today for a home inspection. Great. While I'm out there, I'm intentionally going to go and look at 2 other houses to get ahead of the next thing, right? So being more intentional is the key.
Oh, I love it. Scott.
Yeah, I was just thinking, when Abby, you said fear of being irrelevant. And yeah, I resemble that remark. But the thing that popped into my head was the only people and things that we have to be relevant to is family, really close friends, and from a business perspective, a very focused, purposeful marketing or whatever you're doing. Other than that, and I'm just thinking about this, it's like none of it matters. It's not going to change the course of your business. It's not going to change your course of your life. Certainly not in a positive way. So that was a very eye-opening comment that you made, Abby.
Thank
So
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
I'm thinking about my answer to this question, Abby. It's a great question. What boundary am I afraid to set? I think it's interesting, Drew, because right, we're both in a position, we're doing some different things, right? We both are stepping into some leadership roles. Drew's been in that role, which naturally comes with some coaching and some recruiting and like agent consultation. And I see Zim raising his hands. And so it is the new like I can feel like I'm saying yes to too many things right now. Like I can tell because I can feel like just the mental focus part. Zim.
Let me get my thing on. When I hear about boundaries, I always think it's like everything in real estate. It depends on how your view is of it, right? So Aaron mentioned, or I guess it was a guy, I don't remember his name. Somebody earlier mentioned, okay, so when dinner happens and the phone rings, I get up and go around the corner, not to bother anybody, and do that, right? And you got to think for a second about how does that make all the people you just left feel, right? The same scenario happens when you're riding in the car and you're having a really in-depth conversation, and the guy that you're riding with phone rings and they don't even know who it is. And they're like, hey, wait a second. And they get the call. He just told me that whoever in the world is calling him is more important than I am, right? And so I think that, at least my view, and I'm getting back around to how I set boundaries. It's like if you were in a listing presentation, in the middle of it, sitting at somebody's kitchen table, talking with them, and your phone rang, would you answer it? Of course you wouldn't. And who are you showing that respect to? Someone that you've known for maybe a week because you just got the appointment with them, right? And so it kind of circles back around to who's important to you and what's important to you. And for me, it took a lot of years to kind of figure this out, because I was the guy that would get up and, go do that and not bother his family and guilty of all that stuff, right? Now it's like, okay, so here's the thing. My wife and my kids and my grandkids are more important than anything else in my life, right? And so if the phone rings, that's why they created voicemail. I don't sleep with my phone. It goes, when I go up to bed, it's charging at my desk on the lower floor. I do not want it with me. And on weekends, it's like, that's the time when I, can work in my property, right? And that's the time, occasionally you'll have like open houses you got to do or whatever. but it's all a matter of your calendar and scheduling stuff. And if you can get all your appointments in, during the week in the afternoon when you should be doing it because you're lead genning in the morning, and just when the phone rings, I mean, if someone calls me at 7 p.m., and it's not a friend of mine or it's not somebody that I love, it's like, guess what, dude, I got voicemail. Tell me what you want. I'll call you later. I'll call you in the morning, whatever. So for me, I'm going on about it. Boundaries are huge and they're really important, and they really tell the people around you what you think is most important to you and what you believe. And, and I've been on the other end of that where it makes you feel like, oh, wow, okay. That means that, anybody in the world, since he didn't know who the heck it was that was calling him, is more important to me. It's like, thanks, dude. Okay. How much of a friend really are you? So, that's what rolls in my head. So that's why I set them. And it's like, you know what? It's all going to be okay. If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and you're working your systems and you're doing your stuff, then that call that happens in the middle of dinner with your bride at, the nice restaurant downtown does not need to be interrupted by somebody.
I see Sheree raised her hands. Sim, to tag what you said, Gary Keller used to talk about, remember the balls, Drew? You got some balls that are made of like glass or crystal, and you've got these balls that are rubber, right? Your family relationships, when you drop those, they get nicked. They don't bounce back. Business can bounce back, but there's some balls you can't drop without causing some damage to, there's you can't accidentally have a great family life. I think that's fantastic. Yes, Sheree.
Thank you so much, Abby, for having this conversation. I'd like to throw a monkey wrench, though, into this conversation a little bit because there are 32 people on here, and I'm surprised nobody has brought this up yet. I was listening, so I'm a loan officer, Abby. I work with the group, I'm a loan officer. And I was listening to one of our loan officer groups, and they were talking about the fastest person to the lead wins, right? And we often get that in this industry. If you are not picking up the phone, they can easily call somebody else, right? Obviously, that is dependent on if the person was relationally referred or not, et cetera. But I wanted to kind of have that aspect as we're talking about this, and also really just kind of hammer in. I think that this is why we create like a really strong network of people who know us, love us, and also that we're really, really good at what we do, so that the person says, let's go back to Zim. I'm not calling anybody else because Zimmerman is the guy I know who can answer my question or help me solve whatever it is I'm trying to solve. And there may be some new people in here who don't have that strong of a business yet. And I do think it's important for us to acknowledge that. And maybe you have some words of wisdom for people who are brand new in the business, who are like, if I don't get this phone call at 7:30, even though I'm talking to my spouse, I might not be able to pay mortgage next month, because that's a very real concern that people may have as well.
I would definitely agree. And that's kind of what I made the comment about, for like the first year or two and 3, actually, it literally feels like forever. Like that was me. I had no choice. Like 2.5 years ago, Justin knows I couldn't even pay to fix my car. So I was without a car for 2.5 months, and I had a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old at the time. And so I feel like there is a time and place where there may be a time where you have to be running to the phone. But let's say though you are in a really bad place mentally, I just feel like there is a time and place where, like for that day, let's say you're like, I'm just not okay today. I'm not answering the phone past 5 p.m. today. Anyone that, can call, like, and you can put in your voicemail, like, hi, like I am taking a mental, break today. If you would, like, I will call you first thing in the morning when I wake up, however you want to, phrase that. But I think that, yes, there is a point where I was and had to be that way. But taking a day or two, depending on where you're at in the business, I think is still very important. So that way you can show up as your best, like you can show up as your best self, because you will be able to serve those clients even better. Do you have anything to add, Justin?
I do. I do. I went to 2007. I'm 25. I was a mortgage broker. This realtor took me to a buy referral only event, and a 50-year-old woman stood up and was crying because she was afraid if she didn't answer her phone on Sundays, she would lose her business. And I knew from the very beginning, people build prisons for themselves in this business. Because at that point, I was broke and I was like, I'm never going to be that person. That's ridiculous. Right. And I've done this over and over, coaching people too. We had a guy come in, same thing. He was a hardworking contractor, emigrated here, supported his whole family. We did like a consultation with this guy because we'd go so deep on values. And I still remember this 20 years later. It was like, we talked that guy into taking Sundays off. He was missing his entire family, all of his kids growing up. And so, two things, right? Be careful what you build. This is why so much of the coaching is about being listing heavy versus buyer heavy. And if you're going to be buyer heavy, then they're plug into the future, go where the ball is going. I put speculo.ai in there. There are AI calling tools right now that are instantaneously calling people. It is crazy. They're converting leads at 11:30 p.m. at night. And these things are capable of having a conversation with somebody because you may be right. You may have to answer the phone and be the first person to talk to that business. But I promise, it's going to be harder to walk away, right, Rob? We know this. Great. Now I'm a year and a half in, and no, next month, I'm gonna change my entire business model. So it's a tough one. It is real about speed to lead. There are some systems and processes we can put into place, and I would look really hard about. There are many ways to generate business. Am I walking in the direction that I want to be? There's lots of ways to make money. Am I walking in that direction? Just some tools. That's a great point though, Sheree. We have all been there, and and we've all had to do it. So counterbalancing. So I love that. And I would look at some tech. I think tech's the only way because people's expectations, you're competing with people that are going to use tech to have an unreasonable response time, is what I think, what I'm trying to say, is what I see with the tools that are out there. It's going to be, it's John Henry versus the machine, and the machine's going to win in the future because our competition is going to be using AI tools that respond instantaneously with customized responses and customized search pages. And we're going to talk about AI next week, by the way, guys. So we're going deep on this. Kristen Carter's joining us. Thank you, Sri. That was amazing. You had
Hey,
another one.
Justin,
Yeah,
real,
please.
real quick, let me toss in on that. It's like what Rob said, everything can be delegated. I saw his comment there. Excellent comment. I guess when I think about this, I would push back, right? On you got to answer the phone at 11:30 p.m., right? And the reason I push back on this is what are we constantly told about this business? If you have a plan and you work it, why are you answering the phone at 11:30 p.m.? Because you're afraid. You're afraid if you don't, you'll lose business. That it's fear-based, right? If you have set up your plan and you're doing your 10 to 15 to 20 contacts a day and you're doing it, right? Then, in my view, that should be enough to give you confidence that this system will work. And sometimes it's like, don't ever let them see you sweat, right? So for me, it's like, if you're working your system, you should give yourself permission to not have to answer the phone at 11:45, right? And I don't do that anyway because I don't have my phone with me. Not going to happen, right? So, and you know what? I may not do 5,000 transactions a year, and I don't care. I'm defining what I need to do and doing it that way. So I think if you have your systems together, you should be confident in that and that's going to work.
Yeah, I love that. Abby, you ready to roll? Share your screen and I love it. We'll
And
get this on track.
no, it's okay. It's okay. I have so much. I'm gonna skip this one only because I just want to make sure we hit. I have some really awesome, great questions for another. I actually have two more topics I just want to hit, and I'll be very quick because we don't have much time. But not only is it important to set boundaries, but it's also important to design a business that respects your energy, which I'm really big on because, as you guys know, I have a lot of energy. So you are not a machine. Your business should not work with your energy, or it should work with your energy and not against it. So, what would it look like to design your real estate business around your energy zones? I think actually Jess and I've talked about this before. But know your zone. So not only should you be setting boundaries and, putting those in place, but you should also be paying attention to your energy. Like, when are you most productive? When during the day do I feel most energized, focused, and creative? What tasks make me feel drained, even if I'm good at them? What type of work actually lights me up and feels effortless? Where in my week do I constantly feel overwhelmed or overbooked? Justin, would you like for us to dive into a couple of these questions? Do you
I
feel like
would
maybe?
say in general, we've got some time. Yeah. I think so for you, I think it'd be probably helpful for you to have this conversation, right? Like I saw you go from like feeling like I have to do parts of the business, right? To being like, wait, I can only do the things I like in the business and let Wyatt or someone else figure out the rest of that. So what was that looking like for you? Because you came in, you were a nurse, you transitioned. I know you were working the buyer side of the business very heavily, relational, networking, and like what did you find? How did this work for you?
So, just, kind of going back to what we were discussing with the boundaries, right? Like, I didn't have my boundaries in place. I just was doing everything under the sun. Doing the TC work, doing the showings, getting the listings up, putting my listings up, not having any systems in place. And I felt like a crazy person, also being a mom and all of those things. So when trying to build a life that fuels your business, right? Or that your business is fueled by what you love, so that way you can be more productive. I think this is super duper important because when you are happy and energized, you are going to be more productive and you are going to attract the right people, which Intel has literally taken our business and quadrupled it. This is, I think, one of the biggest things for me. So for me, and I think like each day can be different, like or a time in your life, a season. Sometimes maybe the morning time is good for you. For me, actually, it's after I have worked out and I've crushed an energy drink. I'm telling you, I can get so much done. So I just time that out for, when I know that I'm going to be able to sit down and like at my computer and get some stuff done. Um, and I'm able to do that because I am on a team. I keep going back to this. I It is important to have systems in place. It is important, just as Rob, he had messaged, like leverage. Leverage is huge. We have an executive assistant. We have a VA, and our executive assistant is full time. We have a couple buyers on our team, and then I have my husband. And I have my mom. I think that's really huge too, family, to be able to help with my son. And so I think we look at it so surface level, like, well, how does she do it all? Well, the thing is I don't do it all. I could not do it without my people and my village, and it would be impossible to have done what I've done without help. Um, and also just being, just like I said, putting the boundaries in place, making sure that I myself am okay, like at my core. Um, so yeah, if anybody would like to chime in, I would love to hear what you guys have to say.
I think we've had a couple of different people that have talked about this, that have come in and joined us and had some conversations about energy management versus time management. So if, Michael Heisenbuttel was just on here talking about doing less and working, 20 hours. Drew, I think this really goes to what Drew said, right? If you're on there for that one, right, Drew?
Yeah.
The why is big enough, the how reveals itself, right? And you are speaking Rob Chavez's language. Rob is glowing right now. Money is energy, is what Rob talks about, right? That money is energy. And when I find out to put myself in the flow of it, it flows to me, right?
Justin, can I say something real fast?
Please.
Abby, so good to see you. Excited to have you on here.
Thank you.
This business, if we're not careful, will consume and kill us. Okay. If you let it. But what's so cool is, like Justin had said earlier, these are just mental prisons we put ourselves in. We think that we have to do it. We think we're the one that has to meet with a client and show up or open the door, like open the lockbox or put the sign in. And a lot of times we generate our self-worth from how hard we work in those little things. We think that that's why we get paid what we get paid. And I learned that it's not, right? It's the higher level thinking, it's the strategy, it's the negotiation. And everything else can be leveraged out to save your energy, to protect you, to create, to have you operate as your best self. And I find often that it is, the better the producer is, sometimes the harder it is for them to give things up, right? Because they're so good at the production piece that learning a new skill, the delegation piece, seems so slow, but yet that will save your life. It will make you go so much further by understanding the delegation piece. And it will save marriages, it will save energy, mental health. Like, there is so much positive stuff on the other side of really nailing the delegation game. And so for all those on here listening, right, your main piece is to be the person of influence, like the attractor, the lead generation, the magnet, the strategist, the rainmaker, right? And literally every other piece can be given to somebody else. And by the way, you're creating an economic opportunity for somebody else to learn the game. So there's this mentorship component that happens. And it is such a powerful thing, right? So now that's my little soapbox. Abby, I'm so glad you're touching on this topic, because this is near and dear to my heart, because we have leaders and agents that are in our world that run into this wall all the time. And it is a mental wall that people need to get through, right? So that's it. Yeah.
Thank you. And this kind of actually leads into my last thing I really wanted to touch on. That's honestly the most near and dear to me. As you guys know, I run our marketing stuff, and I've helped create our brand. And this ties into building a life that fuels your business so much, because my life is the business, but yet I never feel like I'm working ever. Wyatt, he always says too, he never feels like he's working. I don't know why this isn't working, but when you're excited and aligned, your brand becomes magnetic. I actually had someone text me this morning and was like, I can't wait to hear you speak. Like, you're going to do great. Like, you're so magnetic, like actually use the word. And I was like, that's so funny, because that's what I want to talk about today. If you follow me, you know that I travel a lot. And I just want to say that for your brand, passion isn't just personal, it's profitable. Align your brand with the life you actually love living. Every single thing, or every place that I have been this year, all of my closest friends were clients first. This is actually, I think, very different than a lot of how other agents work. One of my best friends, her name is Stacy. We met on Zillow. She was my first $1 million client. And I have probably, since that deal, have seen her over 10 times. I've traveled to California. She's traveled here. I went to Costa Rica with her. I actually got invited to go to Yacht Week in Croatia next year with her. The reason I went to Europe a couple weeks ago is because one of our biggest clients here in Sevierville invited us to their wedding. His wife and I have now become really, really close friends, actually my best friend. And I was actually like there the day she was getting ready. I have been to Mexico with some clients. I got invited. So literally everything that in the past 2 years that my husband and I have done, like for fun, really was work related, building these relationships, getting to know these, and it just happened organically because of like the brand that I was pushing out online attracted them to us, and it just has created this snowball effect of like more and more people, like all of our perfect clients are just like walking through the door. And I'm so passionate about this because I do not think without me being online, being silly, being who I am, sharing my favorite coffee, um, posting my videos, I do not believe that we would be where we are today. Um, and I just hope that I just want you to be so inspired to just actually share like what parts of your personal life matter most to you. Actually, I wrote this stuff down, but like, I share Maverick, my son, the gym, my coffees, health, personal growth, anything and everything, because I want to make sure that if you're going to work with me, like, who I am, and that I'm going to give you the best service. And I do that by just sharing my life online. I know that that's very controversial to a lot of agents, but I believe that it has been a very big part of our success. So, um, anyone like to chime in? Or I know that Lauren, I know you're on here. You're really big about social media. If you want to share anything or have any input on that.
You,
Fraser said
you're
he's trying hard
amazing
to fake
always.
authenticity. Go, Boogie.
I was
Sorry.
just gonna say, you're amazing always. Thank you. You're speaking like straight into my soul this morning. So thank you for pouring into us. And yeah, I mean, on the online thing, I feel like I follow the same kind of wavelength as you. Is like, I just want to be super real, super vulnerable, super authentic, because ultimately I want to work with people who know me and like can appreciate that I have a silly cat who walks around with me every morning and that I have a cute nephew and all that stuff. So yeah, thank you, Abby, for being you.
You're welcome. Welcome. So, like, really, the last question is just, do you feel like your business is an exact mirror of who you are? Like, do you, like, if you look at your business, like, do you see yourself, like, who you are? I ask myself this often, and I critique and, make adjustments. But, the boundaries, your energy sources, or the thing, making sure that you're getting rid of the things that are dragging you down, and then just making sure that your brand is authentic to who you are, all creates and make sure that, your business or like your life fuels your business and not the other way around.
I would say from you, Abby, one of the things that maybe I think is a limiting belief is Abby is very vulnerable online. Like very all these conversations. If you have followed Abby, the reason why Rob was sharing, I have seen you totally transform in the time that I've known you, right? Because this has transformed in public, right, Abby?
Well, yeah, and maybe it's blossomed. It was probably in her the whole time. But I remember this
100%.
shy, kind of like, I'm not quite sure, to like beast mode, right? and it felt like, Abby, it felt like overnight. You just like took over your power and you said, "This is who I'm going to be. I'm going to show the world who I actually am." And that takes guts, girl. That takes guts.
Thank you.
Yeah. What was I'm just curious because maybe you guys covered it. I'm sorry I was late. What was the mental shift? What was the day that you decided you were going to come out of your shell, or maybe what was the defining moment?
Well, I feel like it was multiple moments. I feel like it was a time in my life. And actually, at that time, I feel like Justin and I were very close. I actually decided I got sober. I was like very intentional of my work. I started to really dive into leveraging Wyatt and I. We didn't have a team. We were doing everything ourselves. And I think that you just really get to know yourself when you decide, like, I'm just not gonna, this is just a small example, like, I'm not gonna drink. I mean, that takes a lot of discipline. And I just, I just was ready to take control of my life. And I also think, though, it also is consistency, like on social media, right? At first, like you said, I was more timid. I was this, but like by doing things over and over and over and over again, you just get so much more comfortable. And like the more sales you have, you feel more comfortable. I mean, I was very nervous still to get on here today to talk about this, even though I can talk to my camera all day long. Um, and I will say, because of the business that we're in, like Wyatt and I are the poorest out of everyone in our group, period. Like, I just want to let you know that it doesn't matter how much money you have. Um, Actually, the reason that we even have our Airbnb that's $1.25 million is because one of our clients loaned us the down payment because he trusted us so much that he was like, you know what? I know you're smart and I know that you guys are capable of running this as a business and you can pay me back over time. And here's like the interest. We're actually currently, we just wrote a contract for 2 more cabins. And that developer who's building them is actually kind of doing the same thing, but in a different way. We're actually basically like buying them with our money in our account, but then he's basically reimbursing us with commission and then extra whatever, we're just paying him back. So we, because of the relationships that we've built, because of the brand I've put out online, has gotten every single thing we have is because of everything I
Abby,
just.
can I wanna double click on something people need to understand. It's not just the brand that you're putting out. Like, it is consistency compounds over time. Being good compounds over time. Doing what you say you're going to do compounds over time, right? The opposite is also true. Not following up compounds over time. Not doing the right thing compounds over. Each of them take you down a path. And what happens is wise people recognize people that are compounding in the right direction and fucking bet on them. They bet on them because they're like, oh, this person, these people are compounding in the right direction, and I'm going to put my money with them because I see them do the right thing over time. So, like, what you do, right, and how you show up is constantly being looked at and evaluated by everybody. And so, like, that's what reputation is, right? That's what reputation is. So I just want everybody, it's not just being online. It's like doing the right thing every time and just executing. But what you've just given everybody is a recipe for wealth building, right? Because there's some clues there. You are the poorest of your friend group. Everybody should be the poorest of their friend group. I am the poorest of my friend group. Okay? Everybody should be the poorest of their friend group because that just naturally pulls you up, right? If you're the richest of your friend group, there's a problem, right?
Yeah.
Abby always had this level of potential. Always, always. And you went to school for marketing, right? Like this
No.
is I thought you were, oh my gosh, I always thought you went to school for marketing.
No, this is just something
Well,
that I've
that's
found.
true. You were a nurse. Why did I think you went to school
Yeah.
for marketing? That's I don't know. I'm crazy. But
No,
Abby
but I appreciate that you think that.
I always thought so. Abby always had this level of potential. And I think I love that Rob asked that question about like defining moment, because that's a very Rob question. Rob's like, I made a decision and like I took action, Rob's a doer. And I know some of us are kind of everyone remembers Family Circle. This is for the old people on this call, where little Jeff wanders all over the place to get to his path. But it has been a gradual process, and I just share this. We are very relational. Rob's very relational. Abby's very relational. Wyatt's very relational. We're in the most competitive investment market in the country. The Smokies have the biggest Airbnb market in the country, right? 14 months of inventory, right? Relationships will take you places money never will. And if you don't, the other thing I would say is you've got to find people that will speak life into you. You've got to find people that will not allow you to play small. You've got to find people that see your talent and tell you that you're talented and kind of like, in my experience, drag you on that path. Like, right? I see Lauren smiling, like, that tell you, like, this is what you're doing. Because if you're on this call, you're doing great. 2 years in, the median income is $8,800 in our industry. We have over a 90% failure rate. 15 years into this industry, the median income is $85,000. Like, average agent sells maybe 12 homes that's producing. Like, last year, 70% of agents didn't sell a single house. Like, I've got to like benchmark myself and stop like playing small and arguing for my own beliefs and stuff. So I think it's amazing. This is fantastic. Abby's links are on social. You need to follow her, interact with her. Like, it's a Rob reminded me of your Harry Potter video. That's why I was texting you. I dropped it in there. It's pinned to Abby's reel. You need to go see this. It is so much fun. Like, I think also follow Abby because marketing can be what I love is I'm seeing you do things like marketing can be fun. I don't have to do TikTok dances. I don't have to do something that's not my personality. I can insert my personality in and highlight properties.
Mhm.
I don't have to like go dance in a field to sell real estate. No shame in your game if that's what you do, but it doesn't always directly. There's plenty of people that I see doing that don't sell 30 million in real estate, y'all. Right? It doesn't necessarily attract like it doesn't hurt, but it's direct conversion. So Abby could have just get a whole masterclass on how to market properties and attract high net worth listings. Right? But go follow her. I'm making Abby blush.
Thank you. You always do. I don't like talking about myself, but thank you guys so much. I really appreciated this. This actually really fueled me. Thank you, Justin. I've not done something like this in a really long time. So thank you very much for asking.
Abby, you need to do more of this then, because you're
Thank-
really that good, and the knowledge you shared is incredibly impactful. So
Oh,
do
thank you
more.
so much. Thank you.
Next week, sorry, I was wrong. Next week, Hallie McCrory is going to talk about how she is leveraging wholesalers in every facet of her business. So from using them as buyers, using those to, using their listings to attract like multi-transactional buyers, and then also kind of like fueling her own wealth machine where she's skimming the cream off of deals for herself or that she's partnering with. So it'll kind of change your whole perspective on how you can interact with wholesalers, how you can use them as part of your business. She runs an amazing business down in Texas. And then 2 weeks out, we got Kristen Carter coming to talk to us about AI and using ChatGPT to create agents. She runs one of the largest Facebook communities around AI. I saw Madison Peeler on here. We should get Madison to come talk to us. So thank you. Appreciate you, Abby.
Thanks,
Abby. That was
Some
amazing.
territory today.
Bye-bye.
Seriously, be excellent. Boom.